The burden of obedience. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, where Aisha sat quietly by the fountain. She twisted her fingers around the edge of her shawl, her gaze fixed on the rippling water, though her mind wandered far from the calm scene before her. At 17, she was the picture of youth, soft features, clear eyes, and a voice that once carried laughter. Yet now her silence betrayed a heart weighed down by fear. Her father, Rashid, had spoken earlier that morning with a voice that allowed no reply. He was a man of rigid beliefs, one who valued tradition above tenderness. His authority in the household was absolute, and his word carried the weight of law. Kamran will bring security, he had said firmly, and respect to this family. You will marry him, Aisha. There will be no more discussion. The name alone chilled her. Kamran, a man of influence and wealth, known for his sharp mind in business, yet whispered about for his temper behind closed doors. Aisha had seen glimpses of it, how he berated his servants, how he tightened his jaw when challenged, how his smile never quite reached his eyes. His reputation in town was divided. Some admired him, others feared him. To Aisha, he was nothing less than a cage disguised as a husband. She wanted to plead with her father, but Rashid's expression had been like stone. He believed he was protecting his daughter by binding her to wealth and power. Love, in his eyes, was a frivolous illusion. Family honor, however, was enduring, and Aisha, raised in obedience, could not openly defy him. Still, her heart clung to a memory she dared not speak aloud. Imran. The thought of his name sent warmth through her chest, even now. Imran, with his gentle laughter and steady gaze, had been her companion long before Rashid's decision. He was not rich, not powerful, but his kindness filled every gap wealth could never touch. He had once promised her a life built on affection, not obligation. But with her father's decree, those dreams had been stolen like sand slipping through her fingers. That evening, Rashid invited Kamran into their home. The family gathered in the main room, the air heavy with expectation. Aisha sat beside her father, her head lowered, her hands trembling in her lap. Kamran entered with confident strides, dressed impeccably, his eyes scanning the room before settling on her. His smile appeared courteous, yet there was something predatory in its edges. You will make a fine wife, Aisha, he said after a polite exchange of greetings. A quiet, graceful presence is exactly what a man of my stature requires. The words struck her like chains fastening around her wrists. She offered only a nod, unable to force her voice into a lie. Rashid beamed with pride at Kamran's approval, failing to notice his daughter's anguish. She has been raised to honor her family, he assured him. She understands her duty. Aisha's chest tightened. Duty. The word echoed in her mind like a curse. Did no one see that her heart was breaking? When the evening ended, Kamran rose to leave. Before departing, he leaned close, lowering his voice so only she could hear. I do not tolerate disobedience, he whispered, his tone clipped. Remember that. A shiver ran through her body. She wanted to cry out, to beg her father to reconsider, but Rashid's approving smile silenced her. He saw only the promise of wealth and security. He did not hear the unspoken cry of his daughter's soul. Later that night, Aisha sat in her room, staring out of the small window that overlooked the darkened street. The world beyond seemed distant, unreachable. She pressed her forehead to the cool glass, whispering Imran's name into the silence. She remembered their last meeting, his hand brushing hers, his voice assuring her that love was worth every risk. But what could love do against her father's will? What could tenderness do against Kamran's cruelty? Her tears fell quietly, absorbed by the darkness of her pillow. She thought of the life awaiting her, a home gilded with wealth yet void of warmth, a husband whose kindness was an act for others, a father who could not see past honor. It felt like a prison sentence. And yet, deep inside, a spark of defiance flickered. She did not know how or when, but the thought of Imran's steady gaze refused to fade. As long as he lived somewhere beyond these walls, there remained a fragile hope that her story would not end in silence. For now, However, the night stretched long and merciless. Aisha closed her eyes, her heart divided between fear of tomorrow and longing for a love forbidden by tradition. The conflict was clear. Duty demanded her obedience, but her heart whispered of rebellion. And though she did not yet realize it, the path she chose would not only change her own life, but ripple through every bond that held her world together. Hidden love rekindled. The morning air carried the scent of jasmine from the courtyard vines, yet Aisha felt no comfort in its fragrance. Her days had become a rhythm of quiet obedience, serving tea, sitting silently when spoken to, and preparing for the wedding arrangements that her father had already begun. Neighbors whispered of the union with admiration, praising Rashid's wisdom and Kamran's influence. Only Aisha knew the truth. Her smile was a mask, her silence a shield. She had not seen Imran for weeks, though his presence haunted every thought. Each step she took across the stone floor, each glance at the gate, she imagined him there, waiting, longing, perhaps despairing as she was. He had once filled her days with laughter, but now even the memory of his voice was painful, like pressing on a bruise. One evening, as the sky deepened into violet and the first stars appeared, Aisha stole away from her room. Her heart pounded as she crept through the back garden, the shadows concealing her slender figure. She had heard a whisper earlier that day, carried by a servant too sympathetic to remain silent. Imran was waiting near the old fig tree beyond the wall. Her breath caught when she saw him. He stood tall and steady, his face illuminated by the faint moonlight. Time had not diminished his warmth. If anything, it had sharpened his features, carved determination into his eyes. When he saw her approach, relief swept across his face. "Aisha," he whispered urgently, stepping closer. "I fear they had locked you away from me." Her eyes filled with tears. "They might as well have. My father has given me to Kamran. The wedding preparations are already underway." Imran's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "I will not let them take you from me so easily. You belong to no man but yourself, Aisha, and if you will have me, to me as well." The sound of his conviction was both balm and torment. She longed to fall into his arms, to forget the world that bound her. Yet fear pulled at her heart. My father would disown me. Kamran would destroy us both if he discovered our meetings. "Then let him try," Imran replied, his voice low but fierce. "I will not stand by while you are chained to misery. You deserve more than wealth and coldness. You deserve love." His words pierced her despair, and for a fleeting moment she allowed herself to imagine a life with him. A modest home, perhaps, but filled with laughter, children, and peace. Yet the weight of duty pressed down again, cruel and unrelenting. "I am trapped," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Every path I see leads to ruin." Imran reached for her hands, enclosing them gently in his own. "There is always a path for those who dare to walk it. You once believed in us, Aisha. Do you not believe still?" Her tears glistened in the moonlight. She did believe. She believed so strongly it frightened her. In his presence, she felt alive again, as though the suffocating walls of her father's home could not contain her spirit. But love carried risk, and risk demanded sacrifice. The moments they shared beneath the fig tree passed quickly, each heartbeat precious and stolen. They spoke in hushed tones, weaving together fragments of memory and fragile plans for the future. He promised to return, to watch for her, to find a way to free her. She clung to his words as though they were lifelines in a storm. When they parted, her heart ached with the weight of longing. She returned to her room in silence, her shawl carrying the faint scent of his touch. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope stir within her chest. But shadows grew around her. That same night, as Kamran visited once more to discuss the wedding with Rashid, Aisha overheard a conversation that froze her blood. "She will obey," Kamran said firmly. "If she resists, I know how to correct her. I do not tolerate weakness." Rashid's reply was swift and approving. "Good. She is young, but she will learn her place. A strong hand is what she requires." Aisha pressed herself against the wall, her breath shallow, her heart hammering with terror. The cruelty she had feared was not rumor, it was truth, and her father's approval of it cut deeper than any blade. When she returned to her bed that night, sleep would not come. Instead, her mind echoed with Imran's words. There's always a path for those who dare to walk it. She closed her eyes, clutching the memory of his hands around hers. For the first time, the idea of rebellion no longer seemed impossible. Dangerous, yes. Reckless, certainly. But perhaps, just perhaps, it was the only way to claim her life as her own. The thought settled in her heart like a spark waiting for breath. Somewhere beyond these walls, Imran was waiting. And with every cruel word from Kamran, every cold command from Rashid, her courage grew. She did not yet know what form her rebellion would take, but she knew one thing with certainty. She could not remain silent forever. The web of betrayal. The days crept forward with merciless certainty, each one drawing Aisha closer to the wedding that felt more like a funeral for her heart. Invitations had been sent, tailors worked tirelessly on embroidered silks, and neighbors offered blessings with smiles that deepened her despair. Outwardly, she appeared obedient, her head bowed, her voice soft, but inwardly, her spirit strained against invisible chains. Her father, Rashid, walked with renewed pride, as if every step announced his triumph. He spoke of the marriage as though it were a crowning achievement, proof that he had secured his daughter's future and safeguarded his family's honor. To him, Kamran's wealth and influence outweighed any unspoken hesitation. The faint shadow in Aisha's eyes he mistook for nerves. But when night fell, another Aisha awoke. In the quiet hours, when the house lay still, she stole moments of forbidden freedom. Imran would wait near the same fig tree, his presence steady and unyielding. Each meeting was a betrayal to her father and a defiance of Kamran's claim, yet she could not resist. In Imran's arms, she found the courage to breathe. One evening, the moonlight carved silver outlines around their figures as they sat together, hands entwined. Imran's voice was low, urgent. Every day, they bind you tighter to him, Aisha. Soon it will be too late. We must act before the vows are spoken. Her heart pounded with both fear and longing. And if we are caught, my father will never forgive me. Kamran will not forgive either of us. Imran's gaze did not waver. Then let their wrath come. I would rather face their hatred than live knowing you suffer beside that man. You are not his possession. You are mine in love, as I am yours. The declaration sent shivers through her. She wanted to believe in the strength of his words, yet the risk loomed heavy. Still, when he leaned closer, when his lips met hers beneath the watchful stars, she surrendered. Each kiss was both a comfort and a crime, deepening the secret that now defined her existence. By day, she rehearsed obedience, bowing her head as Kamran dictated the colors of the wedding garments or the arrangement of the feast. His words were laced with control, each demand a reminder of the life that awaited her. By night, she escaped into the arms of her true love, weaving a double life that pulled her deeper into the web of betrayal. The contrast gnawed at her. She felt the weight of guilt, not only for defying her father's will, but for deceiving him with every smile she forced in Kamran's presence. Yet guilt could not overpower the hunger in her heart. Imran's touch, his whispered promises, were worth every ounce of shame. Still, danger grew around them. Kamran was not a fool. Though the town celebrated his coming marriage, he began to sense unease in Aisha's silence. One afternoon, his sharp eyes lingered on her longer than usual. "You are quiet, more than a bride should be," he remarked, his voice calm but edged with suspicion. "Is there something you are hiding?" Aisha's pulse quickened, but she forced her tone steady. "No, my lord. Only nerves." The wedding approaches quickly. Kamran studied her for a moment before nodding. Yet doubt had been planted in his mind, and Aisha felt it like a noose tightening. That night, when she met Imran again, she told him of Kamran's words. "He suspects," she whispered, trembling. "We cannot go on like this. If he discovers us, then let him." Imran interrupted fiercely. "What can he do? Your father may rage, Kamran may threaten, but neither can erase what we share. Do not let fear chain you. You have a choice, Aisha. You always have. His conviction both terrified and inspired her. She knew he was right. Silence would condemn her. Obedience would destroy her. And yet the path of defiance was perilous, every step lined with consequences she could not yet measure. Their embrace that night was desperate, a mingling of passion and dread. For every heartbeat they shared, Aisha knew the risk doubled. But she could not stop. Imran was her lifeline, the only light in the gathering storm. As she crept back into her room, her shawl still scented with him, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. Her face bore the innocence of a dutiful daughter, but her eyes betrayed the truth. She was living two lives, and soon, one would consume the other. The wedding day loomed ever closer, its shadow falling heavy across her spirit. With each passing hour, the stakes grew sharper, the danger more tangible. Yet so too did her resolve. She could no longer imagine surrendering herself to Kamran's cruelty, nor silencing the love that bound her to Imran. The conflict was no longer distant. It was upon her. And though fear clawed at her, a voice inside whispered that the time for decision was near. Love against tradition. The morning of the wedding dawned with a brilliance that mocked Aisha's despair. The courtyard bustled with servants hanging silks, arranging garlands, and preparing trays of sweets. Guests began to arrive in colorful attire, their laughter and chatter filling the air with false cheer. To them, it was a day of celebration, a union that promised wealth and prestige. To Aisha, it was the sealing of her fate. Her father, Rashid, moved through the preparations with pride etched across his face. He greeted neighbors, supervised decorations, and accepted compliments as though he were the architect of destiny itself. She will be a dutiful wife, he declared to one guest. Kamran will guide her with strength. Our family will stand taller than ever. Aisha heard every word but kept her eyes lowered. Inside, her chest tightened until it was difficult to breathe. Each beat of the drum, each song of celebration, brought her closer to surrender. She had not seen Imran since the night before, but his words lingered within her. You have a choice, Aisha. You always have. When Kamran arrived, dressed in regal attire and surrounded by companions, the courtyard seemed to shift around his presence. He walked with authority, his smile sharp, his gaze calculating. When his eyes found Aisha, she felt the weight of possession in them. He leaned close during the ceremonial greetings, his whisper chilling. Today you are mine. Do not forget what I told you. I do not tolerate disobedience. Her body trembled, but she forced stillness, a mask of submission. Yet beneath the surface, her heart beat with growing defiance. The ceremony began. Prayers were spoken, blessings offered, and the air grew thick with incense and expectation. Rashid sat at the front, his expression triumphant. Kamran extended his hand, a gesture that demanded her compliance. But before she could take it, a voice rang out from beyond the courtyard gates. Strong, urgent, unyielding. Aisha! Gasps erupted among the guests as Imran appeared, breathless yet resolute, his clothes dusty from haste but his posture proud. His eyes locked on hers, and in that moment, the world seemed to fall away. Chaos rippled through the gathering. Rashid surged to his feet, fury flashing across his features. You dare come here? This is not your place. Kamran's expression darkened, his jaw tightening as he stepped forward. This girl is mine, he declared, his voice low but venomous. Leave before I have you dragged away. Imran did not flinch. His gaze remained fixed on Aisha. You do not own her. She has a heart, a will, and a choice. And if she chooses me, no wealth or tradition can erase that truth. The courtyard fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Aisha's pulse thundered in her ears. Rashid's face burned with rage, Kamran's with cold threat, and Imran's with defiance. All eyes turned to her, the girl at the center of the storm. Her hands shook, but her voice rose with clarity. I cannot marry a man I fear. I cannot obey a command that destroys me. Father, I honor you, but I'm not a prisoner. Kamran, I will not belong to you. A murmur spread among the guests. Shock, scandal, whispers of dishonor. Rashid's fury burst forth. You shame me. You betray your family, your blood. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not waver. If love is betrayal, then I will bear it. I choose Imran. Kamran's composure shattered. His voice cut like a blade. You will regret this, girl. You defy me, and no one defies me without consequence. He advanced, his hand raised as if to strike, but Imran stepped between them, his stance protective, his eyes blazing. Touch her, and you face me, Imran warned. The two men locked eyes, one fueled by pride and cruelty, the other by love and resolve. For a breathless moment, it seemed violence would erupt. But then Aisha moved, stepping out from behind them both, her posture straight, her voice steady. No more, she said firmly. I will not be silenced, I will not be traded, and I will not live in fear. I walk my own path. Gasps filled the courtyard again. Rashid's anger collapsed into stunned silence. Kamran's threats curdled into fury, and Imran's expression softened with pride. Without waiting for permission, Aisha turned and reached for Imran's hand. Their fingers entwined, strong and certain. Together, they stepped toward the gate, toward the uncertain world beyond. Behind them, Rashid called her name in despair, torn between rage and helplessness. Kamran shouted curses, vowing revenge. The guests murmured, scandalized by the spectacle. Yet Aisha did not look back. For the first time, her steps were her own. As they disappeared into the streets, the weight of tradition and expectation still loomed like a shadow, but freedom pulsed in every heartbeat. Aisha knew their journey would not be easy. Society would condemn them. Her father might never forgive her, and Kamran's threats would not vanish. But she had chosen love over fear, freedom over chains. And though the path ahead was perilous, it was hers.